I rise from the floor before Spike can say what I know he's about to. I have a good feeling about this loop, but I need to get started right away. I've put a lot of thought into this over the last few loops, a lot of time making little tweaks and changes just to see what will happen. There are lots of ponies who I need to say the right thing to at the right moment, and lots of odds and ends I'm going to need for supplies. I flit through the palace, teleporting from place to place, laying the groundwork. A half hour of intense work later, I'm winded but satisfied. I wish I'd been able to build up my physical capacity for magic a little over those loops, but the workouts never stuck. I guess that's the trade-off for being able to shrug off the bad stuff. I head for Luna's room. There are those 4 changelings again. I remember when they were anything other than a speed bump for me. Our magic takes care of them so quickly, I don't even have to break stride. I throw open the door to Luna's bedroom. "Hey, Luna, wake up!" I don't actually bother to go in. The whole Shroud of Darkness thing is really creepy, even after this many repetitions. Luna emerges for a moment, yawning. "What is it, Twilight?" "Time loop. Changelings attacking the city. Kind of a long story." Luna's eyes go wide as she catches sight of the unconscious guards. I found that leaving one of them laying directly in her line of sight speeds up the whole exchange rather effectively. "No!" she cries. "I will accompany you. We must warn Celestia." "Actually, I need something else. I need you to fly out to meet the train my friends are on, and fly them back here." I've worked this out. If I send Luna to meet the train, she can get my friends here before 6. But only if I get her to leave now. "I'll tell Celestia you need to go now." "But how do you know that?" "Time loop, go!" It's pretty impressive what kind of things you can get a pony to do if you tell them you're stuck in a time loop. I should remember that if I ever get out of this, but need a favor done sometime. I practically push her down the hallway until she gets the idea and takes off. She can really move when she wants to, and in a minute, she's just a spot on the horizon. Problem 1 dealt with. Moving on. Celestia's room is next, and I've got 17 minutes until Chrysalis overpowers her for good, which, obviously, I'm not going to let happen. The dozens of guards are still there. I remember all of the trouble they gave me when I started all this looping business, and how I thought I'd never get past them without the power of a goddess at my back. I'm not the same mayor I was back then. Not really. I've learned a lot and paid for those lessons in blood, sweat, and tears. I've learned even when she's pushed far beyond the point where she should break down. There are some convictions my mentor will never abandon, and that's given me strength when I need it most. I've learned that I have an incredible family who loves me and accepts me, and that love is helping me to accept myself in return. On a much more practical note, I've also learned about a dozen ways to mix household cleaning supplies into small explosive charges. For the record, I wouldn't really recommend learning explosive making via trial and error. The error parts tend to be as painful as they are visually impressive. I touch my horn to the magically sensitive cord that serves as a fuse on a half a dozen of my homemade devices, one by one. Once they're all sparkling and hissing, I wait for just a moment before flinging all of them into the hallway and ducking behind a corner. I experience the explosion as a wave of pressure forcing its way through me. I think I might have mixed this batch a little on the strong side. When the dust starts to settle, I step into the hallway, stepping slowly and carefully over the now torn and uneven ground. There's a few stragglers left alive, but none of them are in any condition to get in my way. If I survive this, I'm going to have to answer to some very angry maids. I open the door to Celestia's room, and there are the 2 of them, locked in combat. Chrysalis doesn't even get to begin her little deception before a bolt of my magic to her gut causes her to gasp out the breath she'd been planning to twist into a lie. Celestia seizes the moment, and the changeling queen is defeated. I wish I could just kill her, but for now, I need her alive. My working theory is that the elements will be able to operate on the entire swarm through her connection to them. Otherwise, this whole plan is going to be a bust. "How are you feeling, princess?" She rises to her hooves, a little bit weak but unbowed. While she's recovering, I take the time to bind Chrysalis with the ropes and chains I brought along for just that purpose. "I'll manage," she says when she's ready. "What is going on?" I fill her in on everything. The invasion, the elements, the time loop, everything I've tried so far to fix it. "Interesting. I did not realize Starsword had developed such a spell. I will attend to the elements then. They can't be allowed to destroy the city."
I know that's your first instinct, but it's not the right one. Do you think you'd be up to projecting the shield spell over the city? Otherwise the changelings will wreck it before the elements get the chance to.
"If I must, but I do not believe I would be able to do both at the same time," says Celestia.
Trust me, Princess, the shield spell is more important right now. I have a plan. Just make sure you leave an access point in the shield so Luna will be able to bring my friends through.
"How many times did you say this plan has worked over all these loops?"
Oh, it hasn't ever worked yet, but this timeline feels lucky.
Celestia didn't look all that reassured, but her magic lights up, her horn, and a glance outside confirms that the whole city is wrapped in the safety of a giant bubble, tinting the outside of the world a golden yellow as opposed to my brother's purple barrier. The magic continues to flow from Celestia's horn as she maintains the spell. "It is done. Luna will be able to enter at the usual spot near the train station without disrupting the shield's integrity," she says, voice a little bit strained by making the effort so soon after her battle with Chrysalis. "We can keep the changeling queen here at the palace. I'll bring her to the throne room and keep an eye on her from there."
Thank you, Princess. I'm heading down to the vault to bring the elements up. Then I'll go meet them there.
We go our separate ways, and I'm able to open the vault without an incident. The elements are right where I know they'll be, nice and quiet with no invasion getting them all riled up yet. When the changelings who are already inside the city reveal themselves, that will start to change, so I'm still on the clock. I leave the elements with Celestia, along with the bound and struggling Chrysalis. Outside, the first edge of the changeling swarm has discovered the wall in their way, and are battering at it with all their fury. The shield is holding. It's nearly 5 by the time I get to the train station and see Princess Luna approaching in the distance. My heart soars when she gets close enough to make out that she's carrying 5 different colored ponies along with her. She dips down low one of the massive changelings, slamming into the shield and opening a way through, sealing it up again after she enters. Luna glides over and lands, dripping with sweat and panting. My friends drop off her back and rush up to me. There's always time for a group hug. Applejack is the first to speak.
Twilight, what the hey is going on around here? A whole bunch of changelings come swooping in out of nowhere while we're riding on the train. And just when I'm thinking we're done for, who shows up to help us but the princess here? Pulls our hay bacon out of the fire and tells us you sent her here because there's some time thingy going on.
Rainbow Dash interjects herself into Applejack's explanation before I can reply.
Then she grabs us all and she takes off and we're flying like super fast. And believe me, I know fast. So when I say it was fast, you know that it was fast. We went like 100 miles in 45 minutes. She made me leave my party cannon on the train though,
says Pinky, clearly disappointed that she's not able to throw herself a welcome to Canterlot party on the spur of the moment. "I am sorry that we could not bring it along, but the weight would have been too much," says Luna.
It's fine, Princess. While we were flying, I got out a book and I wrote down everything I remember about every party I've ever thrown. See?
Pinky pulls a giant book bound in false leather. The title on the cover reads, Pinkie Pie's Party Cannon.
Unfortunately, I accidentally ripped out one of the pages when we hit some bumpy sky, so that brunch we had last week retroactively never happened. Girls, I'm so glad to see you. You have no idea, but we don't have time to talk or for me to answer all your questions. We need to get to the palace. So,
I take a deep breath.
A time loop, 3 hours, whenever I die. Changelings, Chrysalis. I think about a month, somewhere around 100. Yes, no, 557, all of them. Yes, even the squirrels. Spike's fine. No, just me. You don't want to know. The elements of harmony. I don't know. Yes, no, yes, and 3 tea kettles. Those are the answers in order to the questions you were going to ask.
My friends are too confused by that to ask anything else, even Pinkie Pie. I gesture for them to follow me, and they do. But as we leave the station, changelings begin to crawl out of the woodwork. Chrysalis must have figured out what we were up to and is making her last-ditch attempt to stop us. This is where it's all fallen apart the last couple of loops. The swarm of changelings manages to take one of us out, or bog us down long enough that the elements overload eventually, although it usually does take longer when only part of the invasion force is attacking the city from inside. The 7 of us charge the changelings, and I focus on playing support. I'm always in just the right spot to lend a hoof, or block a strike, or knock out an attacker coming at my friends from their blind spot. Still, the numbers are against us. Every changeling in Canterlot seems to have us in their sights. Then, before I know it, we're standing in front of the palace, having come through the whole mob and out of the other side unscathed. Luna sends us on ahead, joining the squadron of royal guards in the courtyard to hold them off. We sprint into the throne room, and Chrysalis is right where we left her, as are the elements. We each grab the one attuned to us.
Well, I can't say I understand exactly what your deal is with that loop thingy you're talking about, but it looks like it's all working out pretty well for us. If you're right, it'll all be over. Hope you did everything you were hoping to do with the extra time, says Applejack.
I wonder if I'm a terrible pony. Do all those timelines I died in still exist? I'm not egotistical enough to believe the universe revolves around me, after all. Is there a timeline out there where, right before my moment of triumph, I ditched my friends, leaving them confused and getting them eaten by changelings? Did I create this whole universe I'm in now when I did that, including all the ponies who are going to die when the elements blow up again? Am I responsible for all that? Then, Princess Luna rolls over, draping one of her legs across my side and nibbles on my ear. The philosophical quandary seems a whole lot less pressing than it did a little moment ago.
Well, Twilight, that was unexpected, although not unwelcome,
Luna whispers. The mattress we're sharing is bare. In the low light given off by the blue flames in the lamps, I can see the sheets and blankets we tossed and scattered around the room. There's even a pillow stuck to the ceiling, and I haven't made up my mind about whether that should be physically possible or not. I roll over to bring our chests together and snuggle as deep as I can get into her furry coat. The pounding of my heart is in contrast to the quiet and steady rhythm of hers, and I lay against her for a little while, as mine slows to match hers beat for beat, the timing just a bit off, so each one is its own little call and response. Then I look up at her face and wordlessly press my mouth up against hers. The first kiss is gentle, appreciative, but as she kisses me back, I start to amp up the passion and let her know that I'm not finished with her yet. When she figures out my message, she breaks the kiss with a laugh.
Twilight Sparkle, you are positively insatiable. It's 5:30. You do realize that I need to get up and raise the moon shortly, correct?
She's not getting away that easily. Not when I'm running on the better part of a decade's worth of repressed lust. My mouth moves to the little sensitive place on her neck that I've been putting to such good use for the last 45 minutes or so, and she gives an involuntary little yelp.
I want you to show me another trick first, Princess Luna.
I think you would be fine if you just called me Luna, Twilight.
Luna it is, then,
I say. I've addressed her informally before, but I take a moment now to enjoy the way her name feels against my tongue. It's almost as much as I've enjoyed the way all the rest of her feels against my tongue.
I suppose we have time for one more. Which trick have you enjoyed the most so far?
I think my favorite so far is the one with the weather vane,
I say, and I blush at the memory. I don't think I'll ever be able to look at one of those the same way again.
I'd know just the thing then,
says Luna, as she leans back down to begin kissing me again. Am I a terrible pony? Maybe, but even if I am, this was worth it.
Applejack, there's nothing I want more than to finish this now,
I say. I'm right back where I was 2 loops ago, standing with my friends, wielding the elements and staring at a bound and gagged Queen Chrysalis. There's only a few moments to go until 6, and I can feel the energy in the element of magic boiling up right up against the breaking point. All 6 of us nod to one another, and a rainbow of light weaves through the elements, connecting them and us to one another. The other 5 begin to glow and are lifted off the ground, wearing expressions ranging from Fluttershy's look of serene grace to Rainbow's wide grin that manages to make her look cocky, even with her eyes closed. They're working just like they always have. Mine, though, mine has changed. Every time I've used the element of magic before, it's been like floating gently on a river, feeling a powerful current propel you towards wherever you want to go. But this is more like falling into raging rapids that yank me from place to place and throw me into jagged rocks. And also, the river is made of fire. I try to scream, but I can't open my mouth under the enormous pressure. I start to feel and see pieces of all those other timelines, all of them pausing just long enough for me to remember them, before the pieces stab themselves into my body like so many shards of glass. This can't be happening. I remember when Celestia said back in that other timeline about how I wasn't quite real and a piece of me was held apart. If I'm not in harmony with my own body and soul, could it be that the element of magic is rejecting me? No, this cannot be happening. This isn't fair. The elements are supposed to mend and fix things, but this feels like being torn in half. I should be bursting apart as the timelines continue to fill me up, even as I think there's no way I could contain anymore. They build on one another like notes, making up an impossible chord until just when I think that pain is about to drive me into total madness, there's a final thrum of power, and the chord resolves. The pain stops in an instant, and I'm falling into darkness. I can't die now. I can't go back without the hope of this loop ending someday. The hope that the elements might be my salvation. I can't. Darkness takes me. Twilight, it worked! Here's the other thing about pain. It's not the most pleasant experience, but there's no better reminder that you're alive. When I sit up, I'm not in the library, but instead still in the throne room, surrounded by Celestia and all of my friends.
Wow, what happened with your element there, Twilight? You look horrible, says Rainbow Dash.
Rainbow Dash, there's hardly any need to add insult to injury after what she's just went through, says Rarity. Although, you certainly do look like you've seen better days, darling.
Yeah, all the elements were like whoosh, but yours was like whammo, kablowie, and then giant rainbow explosion, says Pinky, complete with sound effects. Can you show me how you do that with mine?
It's hard for me to put into words, and a lot of it I don't really remember. The parts that I do remember make me suspect that that's a blessing.
But it worked? The changelings? Where's Chrysalis?
The spot where she had been tied up is scorched and charred, and there's no sign of her. Celestia shakes her head.
Nothing more than ash now. The full force of the elements was too much for her to withstand, but it flowed into her and through her connection to her swarm.
What happened to the rest of the changelings?
I ask. The distinct lack of panic around me makes me optimistic. Celestia smiles.
Something amazing. Most of them were blown away again, and I have ordered a search team dispatched to discover where to. However, the majority were transformed. Those that had been imitating ponies became the mask they wore. As far as we can tell, they are as much ponies as if they had been born that way, though, of course, we're investigating it more thoroughly. They remember their life as changelings, but no longer have any of the same biological or magical properties. Quite a few of my little ponies will wake up tomorrow morning to discover that they suddenly have an identical twin brother or sister, and I am inclined to welcome them into the herd with open arms.
Wow. I didn't know that the elements would do I didn't know what the elements would do, but I hadn't been expecting that. That's actually kind of dubious, morally speaking. Forced permanent magical transformation isn't exactly smiled upon under most circumstances. Still, if the alternative was genocide... Just another reminder that there's a very good reason why they aren't called the elements of niceness.
Oh my goodness! I'm going to have to throw like a million billion... I'm glad you aren't an evil bug monster anymore, parties. This is going to be epic!
Says Pinkie Pie, always focusing on what's really important, that one. Celestia goes on.
I am a little concerned about you, however. You were out cold for almost an hour. Whatever the elements did to you was powerful and completely unfamiliar to me.
No, they didn't. Did they?
Did they really?
Princess, can you tell if I'm real?
Twilight, have you been reading philosophy books without proper supervision again? Because we've talked about that.
That isn't what I mean. In another timeline, you told me that you could feel the spell that was causing the loops. You said it made me a little less real, or like a part of me was separated from me. Can you feel anything like that now?
Celestia walks around me, examining me carefully from every angle while my friends look on. She even goes so far as to prod me with her horn a couple of times.
As far as I can tell, you are completely, entirely real, and every bit of you is right here as it should be.
They really did. The nightmare is over. No more loops, no more deaths. I'm just plain old Twilight Sparkle again, just as I should be. The joy and relief I feel propels me to my hooves.
I can die! Did you hear that, girls? I can die now! If I'm in an accident or somebody murders me, everything about me will just cease to exist forever. Isn't that great?
My friends don't seem to share my enthusiasm for some reason, and all 5 of them are glancing at each other, hoping somebody else will say something first.
Well, if you're happy about it, then I'm sure all the rest of us are all happy that you're happy. Isn't that right?
Prompts Fluttershy. The rest of them all nod and agree. I hope Celestia is not wrong about this.
You know, I'd like to be sure. Maybe I should die again, just as a test.
No! Shout all 5 of my friends in unison. Oh, right. I guess I didn't really think that through all the way. My stomach rumbles, and that reminds me that there's somewhere I need to be for dinner. Somewhere I've been trying to get for a very long time.
Well, we've had plenty of excitement for today, but if you girls are still up for it, I think we should head over to my parents and get something to eat. Mom's roasting beets, and I know they can't wait to meet all of you.
They smile and nod, and with a goodbye to Celestia, we all leave the palace as a group, chatting away and laughing as we talk about all the things that happened that afternoon, as if we weren't all together for the whole thing. They fill me in on the fight between Luna and the changelings on the train, and I give them a few carefully cherry-picked details about some of the other loops I went through. Some ponies think the future just happens, but I found that not to be true at all. It's something we grow and shape with every choice we make. Sometimes, if we're really lucky, we manage to get one where everything turns out okay in the end.